With all the recent news surrounding EA's Star Wars Squadrons, it's unsurprising that a lot of new Star Wars news has actually slipped past the fans. And while I for one am not a huge fan of believing in rumors, especially rumors surrounding upcoming projects for Star Wars, these several actually proved to be quite convincing. And believe me, the thumbnail that I put up is not clickbait. I believe that Star Wars is actually attempting to emulate Marvel, specifically the MCU. Every day, more and more rumors are coming up for upcoming Star Wars shows, and the more rumors that come out, the more I'm convinced that it's actually attempting to create an interconnected story. Now, I understand that Star Wars itself is an interconnected story. It is a massive series that spanned over 40 years in our real time. However, all of the rumored new shows and the way that they seem to be interconnecting emulates the MCU very closely. Now, originally when Ahsoka Tano was rumored to have an appearance in The Mandalorian Season 2, I'd toss this off as simple rumor mill, as everyone just wants to see more Ahsoka Tano after Season 7 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. And of course, it's rumored that she is going to get her own show with Captain Rex and Sabine Wren, and that this will also tie into the stories involving Ezra and Grand Admiral Thrawn. Whether the two shows are in fact one show or two separate stories told over separate seasons on Disney Plus is still up in the air. But it seems as though The Mandalorian is going to be a launching point for a future franchise, so to speak. Obviously, Star Wars is its own franchise, but these shows' franchises are something completely different, telling an interconnected story throughout multiple seasons across multiple shows, similar to how the MCU told one story across more than 20 movies. And The Mandalorian in the post-Episode 6 era is not the only thing that is doing this, with Jedi Fallen Order being told to be kicking off its own franchise. Now, I understand that many people might be a bit confused and simply think that this is just regular Star Wars, and you'd be right for thinking that. There's new additions to the canon all the time in various books, comics, and of course TV shows, as we've come to realize. However, one core story told throughout the perspective of multiple protagonists is something that we haven't really seen other than the Skywalker saga itself, episodes 1 through 9. So seeing an actual core storyline stretched after episode 6 and after episode 3 in various shows and books form is something very similar to the Skywalker saga, and we're seeing this again too with the High Republic era, taking place hundreds of years before the events of episode 1, telling one core story throughout multiple stories which all take place before episode 1s. From various protagonists' eyes, we'll have different antagonists come along and go, and I think this is the angle that Lucasfilm is actually trying to push for Star Wars, is they're telling multiple big stories in certain areas, certain eras of Star Wars that is, and they're making it thread throughout multiple additions to the canon. Whether this is directly inspired by the MCU and the successes therein is something completely up in the air. However, I do believe that the MCU's success was a huge indicator and definitely something that Lucasfilm decided that they needed to base their new stories off of. With the conclusion of the Skywalker saga happening in 2019, it makes perfect sense for them to focus on bigger ideas, kind of delving into the lore, and this is the perfect way to do so. Making multiple shows, books, and comics take place before episode 1, after episode 6, and after episode 3, with various High Republics, Jedi Fallen Order, and The Mandalorian being the flagship of each series. Obviously, there is going to be some kind of interconnectivity between all three of the stories, but it actually makes perfect sense for them to go in this direction, telling three distinct stories. The Mandalorian was great and started very small, but it's very clear at the end of the first season that it was on to bigger and better things. The introduction of the Jedi, or at least rumors of the old Mandalorian Jedi War, the Imperial Remnant. It's very clear that story is building up to be something bigger, and while ultimately I was apprehensive at the beginning, I actually think that it would be a great idea for them to expand out on this idea. After all, if Thrawn and Ezra are found in perhaps another series involving Ahsoka and Sabine, and they somehow come back, Thrawn could join the Imperial Remnant, and we could actually get to see a canon version of the Thrawn trilogy from old Legends material brought about. And who knows where the Jedi Fallen Order story will go. We do know that there will be a sequel coming, however the developers have actually said that it will be a start to its own sort of franchise, its own storyline, its own idea of stories and comics and video games being put forward with one clear, focused vision in mind, which is certainly something that I think all of us fans would agree would have been better had it been actually implemented into the sequel trilogy of the Skywalker saga, but I digress. With all of these ideas and rumors and stuff spreading around, what would you like to see? Do you think that we will actually be seeing these core stories told throughout multiple different facets of the Star Wars canon? Or do you think that I'm simply rambling? You think that none of this is actually going to happen and we're going to end up with multiple different series telling their own stories? Will Star Wars emulate the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or will it do its own thing? Comment your thoughts below, let me know. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you again next time.